everybody, and welcome back to the Insert Wisdom Podcast, episode number 21. Okay. So this episode, I'm going to talk a bit about my incredible trip that I just got back from. I went to 5 different countries in Europe. And then I want to talk about the sort of calm down and realizations that I've had since coming back from Europe. And spoiler alert, it's not great, the things that I'm noticing between the United States and Europe, but we'll get there shortly. My trip to Europe was absolutely incredible. I went to Austria, Germany, Czechia, Slovakia, and Hungary. And it was one of the most beautiful, expansive, life-changing trips I feel that I have probably ever been on. It sort of blew open my world in a lot of ways to just how great life is in that part of the world and in Europe in general, compared to the United States. And I feel as though coming back home this time to Los Angeles feels vastly, vastly different to when I came back from my most recent trip, which was in June of 2024. On that trip, I went to London and Edinburgh, which was also an incredible trip. I had a great time. There was just something about this one that I feel like fundamentally changed who I am as a person, what I value, and things that I've noticed in the United States. Yeah, I guess I'm just going to jump right into that part of it. And, if people want me to talk more in depth about my trip, you can feel free to email me at insertwisdom@gmail.com. You can always email me there if you have podcast episode requests. Always open to hearing that. So, I'm from California. I was born and raised in San Diego. I've moved all over the United States. I've lived in San Diego, New York City, New Hampshire, Texas, and now Los Angeles. I've moved, I think it's 16 times in my life. So I've moved around quite a lot. I've experienced this country on the West Coast, East Coast, and the South. I've driven through the United States multiple times, so I have a pretty wide angle lens and view of what life is like here in different cultures and what people expect when they live here, how they think their quality of life should be, etc. And, I live in LA. I live in a very affluent city. There's a lot of things that are available to me that are at my fingertips. And so it was surprising to me when I came back only 5 days ago, and I just felt so incredibly sad to be here. And again, this is all just from, I shouldn't even have to explain this, but this is just the way things are online. This is all just my perspective and my opinion. If you disagree, that's totally fine. But, because I can already hear in my head people being like, oh, well, you're so privileged because you live in Los Angeles and I live in the middle of bumfuck nowhere in Nebraska or whatever. And you know what? Like, sure, true. But these are things that are going to affect people everywhere in this country. The fact that I live in LA and I'm still noticing these things, I'm still experiencing these things, means that it's everywhere in this country. First of all, when I arrived in Austria, we started in Vienna. I was just struck by how incredible the food was. I really was not expecting that at all. I had no context really for what the food was going to be like in Austria. I guess I just kind of figured that it would be a lot like Germany, lots of Frankfurters and, Wiener Schnitzel, lots of meats and stuff like that. But no, what I was greeted with was the most pristine delicious, full-bodied flavors and varieties of everything that you could probably ask for was available in Vienna. And what I was struck with in particular, everywhere we went, not just in Vienna, I never had a single stomach issue. I never felt heavy after a meal. And even despite that, we would walk everywhere after every single meal, which only helped, in general. But you wouldn't even need to over there because the quality of the food is so good. It's the kind of quality of food that you have to pay for handsomely in the United States because everything here is so processed. Even the stuff that's labeled organic, it's still not the same. And that's because the soil in the United States is very devoid of nutrients in a lot of ways. But anyway, I digress. So that was the first thing that tipped me off to, wow, okay, everybody here in these countries I'm visiting has access to quality food. That's incredible. I feel incredible here. I wish I felt like this all the time. Every single city we went to was extremely walkable. Like, wow, what a novel concept that I can just step outside my door and I can see beauty everywhere. I see art. I see people laughing together, having conversations, enjoying a meal. Public transit's great. Cars there are really not that, they're not that big of a deal. Like, people do have cars there, but you could take public transit. You can walk everywhere. This was something that I realized today, just driving around LA. I don't remember seeing a single advertisement unless it was appropriate to where I was. Like if I was in a grocery store, maybe I would see an advertisement for something. Or if I was watching a YouTube video, an advertisement would pop up for something in, German or whatever. But when you're out on the street, you're not bombarded constantly with, advertisements telling you to buy shit that you don't need. And when I was driving through LA today, I was like, wow, there are billboards everywhere. Everywhere. It's so ingrained in the culture here that if you're going to be here, you're going to be a consumer. And the culture in Austria and all of the other countries I mentioned is you're not there to be a consumer. You're there to live your life. So anyway, I feel like the desire to make this episode tonight kind of came on randomly when I was on Threads. If you are not, you should follow me on Threads because that's where everything kind of originates for me content-wise. But I posted this thread. This was the first one I said tonight, and it kind of just opened up the floodgates for everything else. But I said, the U.S. is nothing but a corporation that sells what should be part of everyday life back to you, like good food, clean water, walkable cities, community, everything. It isn't right. I think what set this off was a reel that I saw on Instagram that talked about this, that it's like, if you want, what was the example she used? Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, so the example that she used, this is one of many of them. She was saying that, the vacation destinations in this country are walkable cities like New York City, right? Or even Boston, or a lot of the places on the East Coast are much more walkable than, say, places on the West Coast or Middle America. And to be fair, the United States is very spread out. It would probably be hard to remedy that kind of problem now. If this place had been made with that context in mind, maybe things would be different. But anyway, so another post I had on Threads was this one. It's all about how the United States has a lot of work to do. But I said, Do you want to know why people are so stressed in the United States? Because they don't have access to walkable cities, good quality food, livable wages, community, culture, or peace of mind. And the US doesn't care. It wants you to compete like the Hunger Games for those comforts. It wants you to pay handsomely. This is a survival state. It's not really living. And, in Europe, in the places that I went to, everybody is outside. Nobody's in their apartment unless they're there to sleep or cook, or they have to be at their house for some reason. Everyone's out of their apartments. They're out having meals with each other, going to museums, or just sitting by the Danube River and sharing a bottle of wine, or going to a concert, or just sitting at a table at a cafe watching the world go by. These are readily available quality of life activities that are just part of everyday life and culture over there, that those same things here in the United States we're told are things that we have to kill ourselves over, essentially, to get them. We have to pay handsomely for them. We have to pay for the right to have clean water and good quality food. We have to pay to play here. It's nothing but a corporation. This country cares the most about money and how much money you're going to make, how much money you're going to make for the corporation. And it's like I said in the thread, it's like the Hunger Games. You gotta kill yourself to get to the top, basically. And then once you get to the top, it probably doesn't even taste that sweet anyway, because you've sacrificed everything that's worthwhile to get there. Obviously, that works for some people, and I'm not saying that this is a universal experience in the United States. This is, again, my perspective. But this is not living, in my opinion. The fact that I have to get in my car most of the time to go anywhere, and I live in a walkable neighborhood for sure, but it's not the same compared to how it is in Europe. Walks are still largely uninteresting here. There's somebody on Instagram who broke down what it is that makes a walk pleasurable. And he said there are 4 things that need to go into what makes a good walk. So the Instagram account is Paul Wilstout. And he talks about a book called Walkable Cities. And in that book, the author says that what makes a good walk is that it must be useful, safe, comfortable, and interesting. I would venture to say that taking a walk in the United States, unless it's New York City, is not useful, safe, comfortable, or interesting. You do the same walk in Vienna, and it's all 4 of those things. It's useful, it's safe, it's comfortable, and it's interesting. There was another reel I saw of a woman who had moved from the United States to Spain and basically talked about how our day-to-day lives are different. In the States, you get up at the same time, you clock in to your 8 to 10 hour, or sometimes 12 or even more hour shift. You have 30 minutes for lunch. And then maybe after work, you go to the gym, and then you go home, you watch some Netflix, and you go to bed. And you do that every single day until you get to the weekend. And the weekend is for errands, and you're probably too tired to do anything, or if you can, you attempt to have a social life or, do any of your hobbies on the weekend. Whereas in Spain, you get up in the morning, you go to work for a few hours, then you have a nice, relaxing lunch that you can go home to have, or you can go to a restaurant. It's usually a couple hours for lunch, an hour or 2 hours. You go back to work for a bit, and then you leave. And then you go out with your friends, and you have your hobbies, the other things that you enjoy doing. The work-life balance is so much better over there. And I guess the whole point of why I wanted to make this episode, other than to just air out my own frustrations about being back here and not being in Vienna. If you can't tell, Vienna is my favorite place that we went to, but I loved every single place that we went to, is that it just really struck me how much more and how much better life could be for so many people, especially in the United States. I feel like there's only two modes of operation in the United States. It's about war and it's about businesses making money. But in Europe, in these countries I went to, it's just about living a good life. And it makes me sad that the US, people in the US, are under this illusion of the American dream. Not to say that it can't happen, but I know so many people who sacrifice joy in the present, who sacrifice giving themselves a good life in the present. They put all of those things on hold in favor of a future that does not exist yet, in favor of working their asses off for something that is not guaranteed, that they don't even know if they like it, if it's going to work out, none of that. They don't have social lives. They don't feel fulfilled. They feel stressed. They don't feel peace of mind. And when you're in Europe, in the countries that I went to, all of those things just kind of flood towards you. You get to have a quality life. You get to have food that's full of nutrients. You get to have a community and to be out in a walkable place. You get to experience life and really taste it. Whereas here, like I said in my thread, it feels so much more like a survival state. And this is a widespread problem. There are lots of factors that go into this. The United States is an experiment at the end of the day. But life could be so much richer than it is. And when I go on social media and I see how many people are disenchanted, stressed, angry, the majority of them live in the US, from what I can see anyway. And I just want a better life for me, and I want a better life for everybody, because it does not have to be this way. And the way things are set up in this country, it's set up that way by the corporations, by the people who own this country. They want you to be an obedient worker and to not enjoy your life, essentially. And I do encounter people on social media sometimes who are so brainwashed into thinking that this is somehow normal, that our way of life here is normal, and it's not. So I don't know, it's just a topic I wanted to briefly go over on tonight's episode. This is the kind of thing that really gets people riled up, especially when you are like a die-hard American dude, usually like in the South. This is like MAGA shit, right? Like we think, or they think, that this is the best country in the world. And it's like, okay, yes, the United States has a lot of good to it. This is a place where you can truly do whatever you want. I think it's just cost a lot of things that are more widely available to more people in Europe, in these countries that I've been to. Whereas here, it's stripped out of everyday life and it's sold back to you. And we think that that's normal, to work our asses off, to have basic human necessities, basic comforts. And I don't like that. So this is my way of saying I'm moving to Europe. I'm moving to Austria. Goodbye. Good luck. No, I wish. I do love Vienna, and I would love to go back there. I would love to go back to Budapest as well. I had a fantastic time there. I was very surprised by Bratislava. That was the last city we went to. I really didn't think I was going to enjoy it, just simply because, when people say they're going to go visit Europe, they never say, oh, I'm going to go to Bratislava, but it's very close to Vienna and they feel very similar. Bratislava is very chill. It has great food. It's a beautiful city. I didn't get the chance to go through the rest of Slovakia, but I would definitely go back to Bratislava for more time because we were supposed to be there for 2 days, but then we had an issue with our Airbnb, so we just went back to Vienna, which I am not complaining about because I absolutely adored Vienna. Prague was beautiful, Salzburg was beautiful. Just such an incredible trip, and it really changed my life in so many ways. So, like I said, if you have any podcast episode recommendations or comments or whatever, you can email me at insertwisdom@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Threads, which is probably the best place to talk to me. If you want to leave a comment on some of my stuff, I usually see them. The worst place to contact me is through DMs. I don't open DMs ever. I don't like having a direct line of access to me in DMs, especially on Instagram, because then it's like I have to open DMs. I don't really like that. So you can email me or, talk to me on Threads or follow my Substack, The Folklore Library. Check out my book, Under the Same Sky, which is also linked in the show notes as well as on Substack. So that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you're having a fantastic day or night wherever you are, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Goodbye.